Hello, Tharoll. Welcome. I'm so glad that you chose to come today, and I'm thrilled to actually have you here in person. Just a couple of little housekeeping things. Thank you for dealing with the payment before we even got together. And just so you know, I'm a designated reporter for any kind of elder abuse or child abuse, and other than that, every single thing that we say is confidential. And I absolutely hold confidentiality as an absolutely sacred trust. Do you agree to that?
I do agree to that. I'm also a mandatory reporter, so.
Oh, okay, so you understand. Okay, so let me do an invocation and we will begin. So just breathing into that light and that love and that wisdom of spirit that's through in us, all of its creation that has revealed itself right here and right now through and as me and as Tharoll. I am just knowing that that presence of God flows through every word that is spoken, every thought that is thought, any decisions that are made, and that this whole session is just God being revealed as God, as me, and as Tharoll. And I'm just so grateful for this honor of being with this God being Tharoll through this sacred time together as we continue with God being with God. And so it is.
So it is.
So what brings you here today?
I think that I did need to deal some with death and dying. I've had a couple of incidents in the last 4 weeks, 3 weeks. I guess it's been 6 weeks now, where my father died, and then a few weeks later, then I had a son who died, and I don't know. It hit me pretty hard. I think. Well, I know it did.
Mm-hmm.
It hit me pretty hard, especially my father. Son, not quite as much because he had not been in contact with us a whole lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's hard to deal with, and still have a lot of emotion that comes up when I talk about it. So.
So you said that your father was the most difficult?
Of the two, yes, he was, and I think there's a whole lot of regret, a lot of feeling that gee, maybe I could have extended his life a little bit more had I done some other stuff. For about a year and a half, as a substitute teacher, I was going out and actually I'd plan on Fridays of taking a job out by where he lived, because that was an early day for the kids to be out of school. And then after I was through at school, I would go over to his house, and especially during the spring and fall and so forth, he used to like to go out and walk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to like to walk. They didn't trust him to walk by himself anymore because he was getting feeble, because he was having a hard time just falling down. I had fixed up his walker so that he could actually have an oxygen tank with him. So I would go out and walk. And when I was doing it every week or so, when I was doing it, especially every week, became almost the thing. Okay, well, how far are we going to make it today? We're going to make it clear down to the end of the block. We're going to make it just this far. And with his walker, he had a seat, so that if we got too far and then he had to go ahead and sit down, he could do that. And since I've moved and been farther away, I hadn't been doing that as much. I had not been going down every week. I had not been walking with him every week. And so because I think that had I done so, that it may have maybe his stability, maybe his ability to walk would have been a little bit better. Maybe he could have, maybe he would have lasted longer. But on the other hand, I know also that he was missing my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She had died, about a year and a half ago, I guess now, just before Mother's Day, and just after their would have been their 67th wedding anniversary. So,
so how long from the time you moved,
time
he transitioned?
We moved in December of last year. So it had been about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally I worked down in that school district, but not as often. Most of the time I was working up around where I lived, when we're about 35, 40 miles away. So I wasn't getting down as often. And because I wasn't getting down as often, I think that and sometimes I had to be reminded almost, gee, it's been a while since you've seen your dad. Why don't you go down and visit him?
Did he have people taking care of him?
My oldest sister was living with him.
Oh, okay.
She was just, matter of fact, she was a CNA, and she'd had some problems. She was just doing that right now. And then I also have another sister who was living with him, she and her husband, and then her husband and she went ahead and split for some reasons. And
so she couldn't
so there was the two of them around. And then as well as I had one of my nephews was living there with him. So it was like, and they were constantly over there and helping and whatever, as well as some of my nieces. So
were they able to walk with him?
No, when I asked them the question, it seemed like they didn't. It seemed like nobody else. And as a matter of fact, I asked the question, well, how often you get out and walk? He said, well, about the only time I get out and walk is when you come down.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, when I had gone down, one time I went down, he was getting ready to get up and we were gonna walk, and I said, "No, Dad, I'm sorry I can't today because I have other commitments. I needed someplace to go somewhere else, so I couldn't stay around as long as we would have needed." And my sister was there. She says about the only walking he does anymore is from the living room down back to the bathroom and then back to his seat in the living room. So he was just doubling down.
Was she afraid he couldn't walk?
Yeah, she was afraid he couldn't walk. She was afraid that he would fall, and that if he fell, that she wouldn't be able to get him back up.
Yeah.
So there was some regret about that. The fact that I didn't stick around, that I wasn't as I didn't keep it up. I didn't stay around and I was not being the consistent that I had been, where I had been walking more and very regularly. And we were walking, like I say, clear down the block, then turn around and head back. And some days it was very vigorous, and some days it was pretty slow. I certainly appreciated that time of walking him because my dad was a hard person to understand. he seemed to mumble quite a bit. And I learned but he would tell stories. He would tell stories about some of the stuff that he had done, about when he was in the Army, about being shipped out to right at the end of World War II. And he had talked about that. He talked about some things that had happened to him as he was growing up in Rexburg, Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I think I'd kind of forgiven him for he and my mom for taking me away from the high school I'd gone to. I grew up in a little place called Helper, which is a small coal mining railroad community down in south central Utah. And between my sophomore and junior year, we moved from that smaller community up to the Salt Lake area. And so I lost all these friends that I had grown up with all those years. And I thought, oh man. And I realized going through a course one time that I was holding that against them. That why did you have to do that to me when I was 16 and it tore me away from all my friends and all this stuff. And when I went ahead and mentioned that to him, he says, well, at that time my mom was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, Tharoll, it's like this. You didn't seem to be very physical. You didn't look like you do a lot of manual labor. And had you grown up in Helper, the main industry down there was either you'd been a coal miner or worked on the railroad. And both of them were a lot of very physically demanding.
So he thought it was for your highest good.
They thought it was for my highest good. And I didn't realize until they were talking about it that my grandfather had done the same to him.
Wow.
My grandfather, but between but probably about the same time, but about sophomore and junior year, they moved from Rexburg, Idaho, down to Salt Lake City. And as a matter of, when they'd been up in Rexburg, there were times that my grandfather was his teacher in school, in a one-room schoolhouse.
Wow. And
the reason that he was in the reason they would hire my grandfather was because with he and his brothers and sisters, if they came into a school, then there was enough to have a school.
Wow.
Otherwise, there was not enough students to have school in some of those places.
So he had lots of stories to tell.
He had lots of stories to tell. And a matter of fact, I was at his funeral, and I mentioned one of the stories. I mentioned it to one of my aunts. He says, yeah, I remember Dad saying about how somebody was coming by on a sleigh, and one of his uncles had talked to the guy that had the sleigh, said, slow down so that Theron and then the family can also get on the sleigh to get to school.
Hmm.
On those times when my grandfather was not the school teacher. But I knew that I had heard those stories, and matter of fact, I'd kind of, about 12 years ago when my dad had open heart surgery, there were some things there that one day he was in a rehab center and he was feeling a lot of regret. He says, oh yeah, gee, when I was in the Army, I could have got a field commission being an officer and stayed in the Army and done this and this and this. And I could have done this. And he was going on about that. And I said, well, Dad, what would have happened?
Yeah.
Had you stayed in the Army, you may not have been around Mom. You may not have gotten married. You may not have had the kids that you've had. You wouldn't have gone on the LDS mission he went to and met all the people that he met on his mission. All these things, and I sat down with him and was able to help him see, yeah, well, maybe it was okay that happened, that I didn't stay in the Army. Maybe it was okay that I didn't do this, and several different things that he said.
What a service you did for him then.
Yeah.
So did he ever know that you forgave him for taking you out of high school?
I think.
Or did he ever feel guilty about it or anything like that?
I don't know that he ever felt guilty about it. I think I did go ahead and ask. I said, Dad, I forgive you. I realize that you were looking out for the best,
yeah.
And you're looking out for me and also for the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And the oldest is 7, and actually 8. I had a brother who was a stillborn.
Wow, 8 kids.
And my baby sister was born my senior year of high school.
Wow.
So it was something.
So is there anything, like when he took you out of high school, is there any kind of belief that you came to believe about yourself or about him or about life from that may be making you stuck or anything like that?
I think at the time that I felt that it was very unfair.
Okay.
Why are you doing this to me? I mean, I have all these friends. I've been through elementary school with them. I've been through junior high school with them. And now I've been through my sophomore year at the high school. And all of a sudden I was and a matter of fact, we did it at the beginning of summer. We actually moved. And I had been marching with the high school band for 2 years. And because we were going to be moving, was not in the band that year. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the marching. I enjoyed being in the band and so forth.
So did you think he was unfair or life was unfair or
yeah, I think there was some that I felt that the life just wasn't fair.
So life wasn't fair.
That the life wasn't fair, that they weren't being fair to me, that why are you doing this to me right here, right at this time when at 60 years old.
So did that ever outpicture anywhere else in your life?
I can't think of any specific ways that it did.
So when he transitioned.
So when he transitioned, it was, in some ways, it was relief that he had been feeling ill had not been feeling well, not being able to walk for a while, and that he was finally out of that space, finally able to be out of that pain. But that didn't. But still, there was a hurt. There was. I think my baby sister says, "Oh, gee, now I'm an orphan."
Yeah.
Both of our parents have died, within, like I say, about 1.5 years of each other. All of a sudden, was an orphan. And I guess there's also was some, just the way I grew up, that it was like, okay, now as being the oldest, that means I'm the head of the family. I'm the patriarch, as it were. And I don't know what that, I don't know if I was, in some ways I was prepared for it, but I think in other ways I was not. I'm thinking, okay, what is this going to mean? What is this, being the oldest like that, being the patriarch, what is that gonna mean? Is all the whole family gonna start, are they gonna look up to me, and all of that, the emotion and so forth that came with that.
So did they look up to you before? As
Sometimes I think they did. I think they looked up. Well, my brother was the executor, and so they had given him power. At one time, I was on his account at the credit union, at the power company credit union, because they had gone in with me and helped me buy a car. And when they switched it from the one company back to the power company, then I was on the account because the car was in my name. But I think sometime I'm not sure when exactly it happened, but it was switched from me being the executor to my brother, my oldest brother, being the executor.
How did you feel about that? How did you feel about that?
I wasn't too fond of it, to be honest.
Unfair?
I thought, why? I mean, I deserve it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, as I saw my this brother handle some of the funeral arrangements for both my mom and my dad's funeral, he seems to have a pretty clear head on his shoulders and could handle things pretty well. And so he seemed to handle it pretty well. And I know that actually when both my mom and my dad died, they had gone ahead and made out. They said, okay, we want this and this and this at our funeral. We want these things to happen. And when my mom died, they said, okay, well, yeah, they want you and they wanted me and my youngest brother to sing a song, and they said, Mom, grandma's song or whatever. And we couldn't think of what that was. But so we did sing a song for her funeral. And I know that when my dad died, he wanted us to sing, it doesn't matter. He wanted us to sing a specific song. And certainly when my dad died, I was in a better space, as it were. My brother had gone ahead and made an arrangement of that particular song, and he had the higher voice, so he was carrying the lead and so forth. And I think that had I not been willing to step back, I would have felt, okay, Brian, no, I'm the oldest. I should be able to. I should sing the lead. I have a better voice and all that stuff. But when my dad died, I was willing to actually say, although I think I've got the better voice and I think that I should be carrying the tune, I see it also a way of your healing, a way of your being there to let him do it.
So that was really generous of you.
Well, yeah, I thought it was, and yet, I realized that it was something that he needed for his healing, I think, more than the fact that I could go ahead and give it up. I could go ahead and not be in control, as it were.
So how
Hard to
does it
do.
feel? How does that feel to give that up, as in generosity for him, for his healing?
I think at the time it felt good. I think, as I recall it, it felt good. And I saw it as, like I said, I saw it as being that uh, my brother felt that he needed
Mm-hmm.
that was part of his healing. It was part of it. Certainly by that time I was in prac studies and recognized that that I didn't need to have that reinforcement, as it were.
Oh.
I didn't have to be number one. I didn't have to. I could give it up. I could release it.
Oh. Is that a break? Is that some kind? So it's the oldest. Is that some kind of a breakthrough for you? To be able to relinquish that sense of total responsibility for everything?
Yes, I think it was.
So tell me more about that, and how does it feel now?
I think there's still some stuff that comes up about being the oldest.
Yeah.
But also it did feel, like I say, at the time I recognized that that my brother needed that. My brother needed that.
Good for you. Yeah.
And because I was willing to let that happen, I think it helped him also to release, to feel better about himself, yeah.
Well, I really honor you for that gift that you gave to him, and for the gift that you gave to yourself, for your willingness to let go of some of that having to control everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've stood by my father for a number of things. It's been several years ago. He was asked to, and it's a Mormon tradition that somebody go ahead and dedicate the grave.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep.
And well, and I went to a Catholic service and I heard them basically doing the same type of thing. So I know it's not just the Mormons.
Yeah, I did a Mormon service, and that was the case.
But my dad was asked to dedicate the grave, and he got up to do it, and he was kind of unstable on his feet even at that time. So I just kind of stood up there next to him and kind of supported him, let him do his thing, and was there just a support because he did need the yeah.
Who dedicated his grave?
One of my uncles did.
Oh, okay.
My brother-in-law had done the family prayer, and my brothers and sisters have been involved with some other parts of it, but they asked my an uncle to actually dedicate the grave.
And was that okay with you? How did that feel to you as the oldest?
It felt, I wasn't really, I wasn't super excited about it. I thought, well, I'm still technically an elder in the Mormon church, and that I perhaps could have done it. But then I realized, that they know that I don't go to the Mormon church anymore. So maybe more for the family, and maybe getting just kind of relinquishing that, just kind of letting it go, and not trying to kick at the stones, or trying to kick sand up in somebody's face.
Well, your dad knows from the other side who you are and how much you loved him. Doesn't matter whether you're the one who dedicated the grave or not to him on the other side, I don't think. So I want to get back to, it feels like you're feeling, tell me whether or not this is so. I feel some guilt from you about not being there all the time after you moved, and when that you weren't able to walk him as frequently. And it feels to me like you're feeling that if you had done that, it would have prolonged his life. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that's pretty spot on. I think there is definitely some regret there. Some thinking that, gee, maybe if I had gone down there more often, maybe if I had walked with him more often, that perhaps even the last year or so, that perhaps it would have helped him, and he would have been in a better space to walk even. Well, we lived right across the street from the church, and my sister was taking him over to church all the time, and she was so unsure of his stability of walking. She was pushing him over there in a wheelchair.
Of course, she's a nurse, so she would know, right?
Well, yeah, she's a CNA, so she was a certified nursing assistant. Okay. But yes, but I think her biggest thing was the fact that she didn't think that she was concerned about him falling, and she was concerned that, gee, if he falls, I won't be able to pick him back up.
Yeah, and that's understandable for her. So you know that what we teach is that the soul decides when it's time to leave, and there's nothing anybody else can do to change that time.
Yeah, I think so, but I think I also recognize that sometimes that if we go ahead and if we've been very active and so forth, and all of a sudden we can't be active, then we make the decision. But that if we're still feeling fairly good about ourselves and still feeling we can function and do things, that perhaps we might put off that decision a little bit further.
For what, a day? For 2 days?
Perhaps longer, but yeah, whatever. I understand what you're saying, and certainly that brings up all the guilt about all these people that die in these massacres and so forth. That, gee,
yeah, I know, and we're not going to go there.
We're not going to go into that, and then that's
a whole, that's a whole different way of leaving.
Yes.
And we'll have a whole class about that in whichever class that is. But I want to go back to how long was it before you saw, between the last time you saw your dad and the time he transitioned? I'm just curious.
It had been a little while. Verna and I were singing with the Oratorio Society of Utah. So we're having to travel down to Salt Lake. And several of the times that during the 10 weeks we were doing that, to say, okay, well, maybe we ought to go ahead and stop by and see your dad.
Yeah.
Maybe we ought to go ahead and spend a few minutes. And I think it was on one of those occasions that he was just getting ready to put his shoes on and had to say, no, Dad, I'm sorry, I can't do it today because I've got this practice.
And that's the last time you saw him?
No, I had seen him a few times since that.
Okay.
But it was not as regular as it had been. And when I had been with him, certainly it was getting harder and harder to understand him. Myrna says, I can't even understand what he's saying.
So that means he was getting ready to leave. How about, I mean, when he was he stopping eating and stuff as he was getting ready?
My sister was still fixing meals for him.
Okay.
And he was still eating.
Okay.
The day that we were just getting ready to do the world healing meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and we were going to have a practice on the one night,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like the day before that is when he says, "Oh, Tharoll, we probably need to come down."
Okay.
So we went ahead and went down, got a hotel room. I saw him.
So he was still alive when you saw him?
I saw him when he was still alive, but he was breathing. His breath was very irregular by the end. I could hear that. The death rattle, as they call it.
Yeah.
I could hear that.
So you were with him when he transitioned?
No, I wasn't right there. We had. I was in town.
Okay.
We had got a hotel room, and then we got the phone call that says, "Well, he's passed."
Okay.
And so
he knew you were nearby.
Yeah. He did.
That's
I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would have known on some level.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably wasn't very, very coherent there in the last.
Yeah. That last time I saw him, he wasn't.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, when we heard that he had finally made his transition, then Myrna and I actually picked up bagels and cream cheese and took them over to the house because we knew that the family the family could probably use it.
Yeah.
But there would be. So anyway, we did. We got over there, and I don't remember if they had actually I don't think they picked up the body yet. I think it was still, the body was still there. And then,
were you there when they picked up the body?
No,
So you were able to see his body.
Yeah.
That's a good completion. That's a good completion.
It was. And
were you able to say what you wanted to say to him before he passed, even if he wasn't coherent?
Yeah, even though, well, the night before when we'd gone down, and he was still breathing and so forth, I said, Dad, I love you.
He knows. He knows.
I don't know, but and I don't remember the words that I said. I don't remember the words that I said to him at that time, but I did say, I love you and I'm here for you.
Yes. And he knew that as he was transitioning that, and absolutely knows that on the other side. He absolutely knows that, because you know that life is eternal, and that he absolutely knows from the other side. Have you felt his presence or anything yet from the other side? It hasn't been very long, so
No,
usually.
no, 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 I haven't. I haven't. I
Mhm.
have a sister who lives in Hawaii,
Mhm.
and she made a she put something on Facebook saying that she felt that my mom and dad had been around her all week or whatever. She had felt that the presence of it.
Yeah. And I bet they are around you, and you're just,
Yeah,
and you know, sometimes we get into such grief that we can't see them, and you know, then maybe by the time we're out of the grief, you know, they've gone on. Who knows?
yeah. And sometimes I think we get too busy.
Yeah.
We get too busy with all kinds of stuff, with class or with
Yeah.
life.
But
That
it's good to take some time out and just feel the pain and feel the grief,
yeah.
and you know, cry when you need to cry. But what I want to know is, what will it take for you? I mean, you are absolutely not responsible for when he left the planet.
Okay.
You had absolutely nothing to do with it. There's nothing that you could have done that would have kept him on the planet longer, because he left exactly when he needed to leave. So what would it take for you to really get that, to really internalize that? My telling you isn't going to do it. What will it take for you to really get that?
Christina, honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Honestly, if I had an answer, I would give it to you, but I'm not finding one right now.
Okay. Okay. So what I want you to do, is take a piece of paper.
Okay.
This is your homework. Okay.
Okay.
I want. Well, no, actually, well, let's start it now, and then you can finish it with your homework.
Okay.
So, so tell me what would have happened if you had visited him one more time. What do you think would have happened if you had visited him and taken him a walk one more time?
I think that had I visited him, well, I know that at Christmas time,
Mm-hmm.
we went down early because we anticipated a big storm on Christmas Day. So we had gone down. I gave him a Christmas gift, and he seemed very, very coherent then.
Mm-hmm.
And I did tell him right then, well, Dad, I love you. I gave him a video
Oh.
of well, the past leader of the Mormon Church was a guy by the name of Gordon B. Hinckley,
Mm-hmm.
who was a cousin, well, very distant cousin, but was a cousin. And some video had been made about him, and I thought, gee, for my dad for Christmas, that would be a good idea to go ahead and give that to him for Christmas. And I know that we gave it to him on Christmas Eve, and I know that he was able to. I know that he watched it be during that week, and I think that he seemed to be in very good shape, very
Mm-hmm.
good spirits, whatever on that day. Certainly, he had to tell me about that the Christmas Day when I was born.
Oh, you were born Christmas Day?
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact,
About you? That's cool.
my mother was pregnant. They'd taken her into the hospital. They said, well, no, nothing's going to happen, so we're going to have to. So probably at first light, we'll go ahead and let her go home. And my dad worked for the power company, so they're 24 hours a day, 365. And so he had gone to work, and he got the phone call from my grandpa saying, your son's just been born.
Wow.
And he said that was one of the longest shifts he ever had to work. And he didn't feel like he could call somebody else in to take his place. It was the longest shift he had to work. When he called my grandmother, his mother, she was so excited because I'm the first grandchild, her first grandchild. And so she was so excited. He wasn't sure if he heard her yell all those blocks through the air or over the phone because she was so excited.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a Christmas day that he told me so often about.
That's beautiful. So he was really thrilled that you were born.
Yeah.
He really loved you and still loves you.
His name was Tharoll with an N, and they went ahead and they didn't want it to be the same.
Right.
So he was Tharoll and I was Tharoll.
Beautiful.
And I know, looking at the genealogy, I realized some of that. His father had been Silas Jesse,
mm-hmm.
and his grandfather had been Silas Ricks,
mm-hmm.
and so my grandfather went by the name of Jesse, mm-hmm. so that he wasn't confused with his own dad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason they wanted our name to be a little bit different anyway.
That's a lovely story. That's beautiful.
Anyway.
So are you willing to do a process?
I am.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of what's the best way of doing this. So I want you to close your eyes.
Okay.
And I want you to be talking to your dad. And I want you to tell your dad everything that you feel guilty about in his passing. Okay, so I want you to just speak it all out. Just let it all go. Like you're talking to him and he is listening to you in that loving space of Theron, your wonderful dad who was so thrilled that you were born on Christmas Eve. And I want you to keep it to all the things that you are feeling responsible for and maybe have some guilt about in his transition and in his illness.
So you want me to do that right now?
I want you to do that right now.
Dad, I'm so sorry that I wasn't around more towards the end, towards those last days on this earth. I loved you and I'm missing you. I know that you were disappointed with me, the fact that I didn't stay in the church that meant so much to you and had meant so much to me for a while. But I haven't wandered far from that. Where that childhood song of I am a child of God, I'm God beyond. Not only am I a child of God, but I'm also a part of that divine God. I still loved you and Bob a lot. I know you miss Bob. And I know that I was actually a little bit surprised that she lasted as long as you did after she had passed, because I know how much you had been together. I regret that I wasn't around it more the last year to go on those walks with you. to hear your stories. You told some of the same stories all the time, but well enough that I remember very well. I regret the fact that I think I took it out on you and Mom quite a bit as I was growing up, thinking that I wasn't as valuable to you as the rest of the kids because I didn't seem like, in monetary means, it didn't seem like I got as much for Christmas as the brothers and sisters got for Christmas and birthdays. But on the other hand, right now, I recognize that as much as you tried, you were still doing the best you could. And I know that I wasn't the perfect son, and it must have been quite hard for Mom to raise from the time that you first moved to Salt Lake until the family moved up. That's the reason I spent that time with you and Grandpa. I regret some of the judgments that I've made, but Dad, I really loved and cared about you. I really loved and cared about you. I was so concerned when you were in the hospital with your heart, and how you seemed to be so disoriented at times because of all the things that were happening there. And as a dutiful son, I knew, or I felt, or I had heard that what would help with that would be if you had your music around you, so that you could go back to having those things. I'm glad I thought of that. I'm glad that helped. Dad, I love you, and I appreciate all those things that you did, all the ordinations, all the blessings that you gave me, and even foregoing baptizing my sister because I was then old enough that I could do it instead. And thank you for giving me that opportunity. Thank you for supporting me on my mission. Thank you for thank you. I apologize. I regret that I tried to depend too much on phone calls rather than writing letters that you would have, so that you could read them over and over again. But I think that I needed to hear your voice more than I needed to. I think I needed to hear your voice. I hope that you felt that need to also talk with me and hear my voice in all those different places that I was. Dad, I miss you. I miss you already. I miss just the ability to come and just talk with you, to hear your stories again. I miss Mom. I miss all of those things. Dad, Mom, Grandma, Grandpa, Derby, sure, Grandpa. I love you. I care. I miss you more than you might realize sometimes. But maybe you realize it more than I show it. Because your spirit just continues to be there. Your spirit can look down and see and feel and know those things that perhaps physical eyes and physical being would not experience. I release these thoughts into the one mind, knowing that we are all still one mind. We are all connected. We are all connected. Spirit to spirit, heart to heart. I know we're connected.
And you always are connected. You can never not be connected. So take a couple of breaths. So you game to go even deeper? Game to do one more thing?
Sure.
Okay, so just take a breath. Take a few breaths. Let your eyes open. So before we do the one more thing, go to some treatment. I have some homework for you.
Okay.
So you need to say this affirmation many, many times a day.
Okay.
I release all guilt. I forgive myself. I am forgiven. I am shining brightly as God, as Tharoll. So read those back to me, please.
I release all guilt. I forgive myself. I am forgiven. I am shining brightly as God, as Tharoll.
So will you do that at least 10 times in the morning, 10 times in the afternoon, 10 times before you go to bed?
Yes, yes.
And will you write it really big, print it out, put it all over the place?
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay. What I think is maybe when your son transitioned, all the guilt from your dad, just tell me if I, because your son would be a whole different session, but my intuition is that all the guilt from your dad came up again with your son.
Yeah, I think there was. I think there was some guilt that we'd not kept closer contact with him.
Yeah.
But certainly we were expecting the fact that he wanted to live his own life and didn't want to be part of our whatever.
Session, but I want to deal with your dad for
right,
this.
Right.
Does that work out with you?
Yes.
Okay, are you willing to do one more process?
Sure.
Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to look at your picture on the video, and you are your dad. And you are talking to Tharoll, and you are saying things like, saying things from what you know as Theron on the other side, because as Theron, you know that you left at the right time, and that you as Tharoll, there was nothing that you could do to make it any different, right? So I want you to be your dad telling you, Tharoll, that. And I want you to be your dad telling you, Tharoll, that there's there's nothing to be forgiven, but I forgive you anyway, and that I absolutely love you, always love you. And anything else that you want to say as your dad, looking at you, knowing what you know as a religious scientist, and what you know that your dad knows on the other side, seeing from this great, great vista, absolutely knowing that he left at exactly the right time. Okay? Willing to do that? You don't have to if you don't want to.
I don't know that I can do that right now.
Okay. Okay. I got it. Okay. Okay. I would do it, but I wanted it to come from your voice.
Okay.
I thought it would be more powerful if it came from your voice. But I will be your dad right now, and I will be Theron. And Theron, I absolutely know that I left at the right time. There was absolutely nothing. I so appreciate when you came to walk with me. And I just bless those times. And I want you to know that when it was later, that there's no way I could have done those walks. I was just too weak. There's absolutely no way I could have done those walks. And I know that you feel guilty about not coming. And I know I don't want you to feel guilty, because there's absolutely nothing that you could have done. My soul absolutely knew when it was time to leave, and I left at the absolute right time. And I am on the other side, absolutely joyous, free of that body that wasn't working for me anymore, and absolutely loving and cherishing you every single second. And I am so thrilled to be with your mom, and I'm so thrilled to be with your grandparents. And I just really want you to know that I always, always love you, and that there's absolutely nothing to feel guilty about or forgiven for, because I left at exactly the time my soul decided to leave. And I love you. Namaste.
Namaste.
So.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now we need to treat. It seems to me that it's pretty obvious that there's a false belief in guilt and a false belief in an unfairness that needs to be let go of. Is that so?
Yeah, yes.
So tell me what you want to experience. How do you want to feel?
I want to feel the weight of the guilt lifted.
Okay. So peace, maybe?
Peace, yes.
Peace and maybe joy.
Joy, yes.
Because once that guilt is lifted, there's peace and joy, right?
And harmony, yes.
And harmony. So peace, joy, and harmony. And that homework is going to help you with the guilt being lifted. And I can see that that guilt is really, really, really deep. So it might take a little, it might take more than one treatment, but who knows? It might take only one.
Okay.
So we shall see. We shall see. So we're treating for lifting of that false belief in guilt, and we're treating for peace and joy. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So just turning to that place of the one. That place of that one that is through and as all of its creation. There's no place where that peace and that joy and that light and that love and that wisdom of spirit is not. From the tiniest atom to the farthest galaxy, every single universe is expressed as that light and that love and that peace and that joy as spirit. Every single tiny being in every galaxy and every parallel universe is all spirit, is all what I call God, and it doesn't matter what it's called, but it's all that light and that love and that peace and that joy as spirit manifesting as all of creation. That is who I am. God as Christina. And that is who Tharoll is. God as that peace, that light, that love, that joy, as Tharoll, right here and right now, walking around on this planet in the form of Tharoll. So I'm absolutely knowing the truth about Tharoll. Absolutely knowing the truth about Tharoll as peace, as joy, as the presence of spirit in the form of Tharoll right here and right now, and absolutely knowing that any ideas of guilt or needing to be forgiven are just false beliefs. Any false beliefs in guilt or any false beliefs in the unfairness of life are just dissolved into the nothingness from which they came, because they are not the truth of his being. What the truth of his being is that light, that love, that peace, that joy of spirit as Tharoll, right here and right now, just resting in that joy of this amazing life, giving his gifts as God, as Tharoll, right here and right now, in peace, in joy, in light, in love. And so I just gratefully, gratefully, gratefully accept this peace, this joy, this light as the truth of Tharoll right here and right now. As I release this word to the law, absolutely knowing with perfect certainty that it is now done. And so it is. Amen.
So it is.
So Tharoll,
Yes, Christina.
Wait. Please go wash your hands. Wash your hands of all that, knowing that all that guilt is now released. And anytime you even have an inkling of feeling any guilt, go wash your hands. Will you do that?
Yes, I can do that.
And if you feel a lot of guilt, you can just go take a shower. Just wash it all away, because that's not who you are. Okay? Just, it's already let go of. And what you get to do is remind your subconscious that it's already gone.
Okay.
You willing to do that? Okay. And
Yes, I am.
thank you. It's an honor being with you. I
And
love you.
with you.
And I bless you. And
you are blessed in return.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now.